A person who is a legal property of another and is forced to obey them, or a person who is excessively dependent upon or controlled by something. Okay? So if you're dependent on something, are you free?
No.
No. If you're controlled by something, are you free?
No.
No. So if we want to be free, then maybe we need to get rid of our dependencies and the controls in our life.
Rob, in the Paget family, is an example of what happens when an average individual begins asking simple questions. Rob has removed himself from under external government and jurisdiction. No officer of the law, judge or magistrate, politician or tax agent has authority over his life simply due to a title. The land on which he lives is treated with respect and appreciation. He has drafted his own Declaration of Independence and his own Constitution. He has truly broken the bonds that fetter so many of us to dependency and dogma. However, to do this, far more than physical barriers had to be destroyed. Upon Rob's realization that he is truly becoming free, an inevitable realization of responsibility presented itself. When excessive dependence upon something is recognized within, the heart and mind revolt. The initiation of an authentic revolution always begins within the individual. Pay attention not to the physical steps he took to become free, but to the spirit of his path. For it is a personal path within all of us. If we mimic the path of another, it is not a true path for us, but a trap. This is merely a story of an individual I love and respect, the story of how a true revolution is born.
With self-governance, I am 100% responsible and 100% accountable for everything that I say and do. And that's what kind of led to us building the airship and to building a power system and living off-grid. But when we talk about off-grid, it's not just the power grid that we're talking about. There's also the corporate grid. And so myself personally, I've gotten rid of the mortgage, credit cards, loans, bank accounts. I don't have any of those kind of things anymore. So I'm off of the financial grid and I'm off the corporate grid as much as possible as well. If I started growing our own food, generating our own power, then we're not susceptible to disruptions in the grid should there be a failure. And because of its complexity, the probability of that happening is increasing over time.
The complexity of a system is a direct reflection of the amount of burden that the people are placing upon the system. Every government would have to grow if you keep placing more burden upon it. All of that burden is actually the responsibility that we no longer, as the citizens, want to take care of on our own anymore. We want our government to take care of it for us. So all of that burden feeds the system, and that's how the system grows. If a system is becoming faulty, if a system is becoming corrupt, that's because the foundation or the soil that that system has grown out of has become faulty and has become corrupt. So that's the first place that we need to start looking, is the foundation, the soil that this system grew out of. We need to start looking at the people.
There's a fellow down in the U.S., Taos, New Mexico. He's an architect. What he's doing is he's building earth-rammed houses, which are passively solar heated, out of automobile tires. And you stack the tires like bricks, pack them full of dirt, and they're backfilled, and they're completely off-grid. The sun heats the dirt and the mass, and that heat then radiates back into the house. And then in the wintertime, because the sun is so low, it penetrates deep into the building to warm up the building, and in the summertime it's really high, so it doesn't penetrate the building at all, and it keeps the building cool. And collect water off the roof into cisterns, and we recycle water in the house, and solar panels for power generation. So the house essentially is like a self-contained ecosystem because it collects its own water, treats its own waste, generates its own power, generates its own heat, and it's all built out of recycled materials that are abundant out in our ecology. There's automobile tires all over the place, right? So you're trying to build houses out of materials that you can find readily laying around. My wife is studying to be a homeopath at the time, and she started recognizing that there are a few things that are going on in the medical industry that isn't necessarily good for us. And through the process of learning about some of the medical issues that we were learning through Carrie's education, it started to wake us up to some of the other things going on in our economy and in our political system and that kind of stuff.
It's not a healthcare system, but a keep you sick system so that they can make lots of money through pharmaceuticals. I held on to crap in my life, and whether it's emotional or mental, and my body had a real hard time dealing with it. You know, I've since learned that it's holding on to that stuff is what causes cancer and, you know, all kinds of illnesses and distress on the physical body.
So we decided to take our matters into our own hands and be responsible rather than react to what was going on. We decided to be proactive. And so we came out while the economy was at its hottest, and we sold everything, came out here. That all stemmed really from some of the things that Carrie was bringing back from her studying, and she brought this term natural person back from school and said, "Hey Rob, you know, have you heard of this?" No. So I started looking into it and realizing that there's this huge deception going on in the political arena, well, and the medical arena and the economy and all that kind of stuff too. But my initial reaction was I was extremely angry and upset. How dare they do this? You know, they're supposed to be there to protect us and guide us and help us, not manipulate us. And that's kind of started my road towards trying to understand their system and learn what human rights is all about and what freedom is all about.